Welcome to Sportsbet Daily at oddsmarket.com. The UFC 164 this weekend travels to Brazil. We've got no Sports Keg CEO. Jays has had to go and deal with a family matter. Let's hope it's not too serious. But at Dave Betts is obviously going to be here and hold the fort. Dave, how are you?
What's good, Flash? I'm great, my man. Another UFC this week. They've been hammering on this summer. We haven't had a break, but unfortunately for me, we're going to have a 2-week break after this one. So if you are tailing and you guys do love the UFC bets, make the most of this weekend because it'll be heading to São Paulo and then that'll be it for 2 weeks. So we'll have a 14-day break.
Just let me show a little bit of ignorance, Dave. We spoke about Mexico earlier on in the year and it was like all about altitude. Is there any of them problems here?
Not so much. Brazil is like, it's a country that has been a mainstay in the UFC. There's always been tons of Brazilian fighters. A lot of guys outside of Brazil train in Brazil. The relationship between Brazil and the UFC is real strong, so that falls down into the fighters, and they have a great relationship with Brazil as well. So altitude is not really an issue that's brought up when talking about traveling to Brazil. And to be quite honest with you, the majority of the time we have these Brazil cards, they're stacked with Brazilians because Brazil is the home of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is one of the main, combat sports, which is implemented into everyday MMA fighters' toolbox. So, a lot of these guys are going to be Brazilian on this card anyway. So you're not going to see too many problems from gas tanks and stuff like that. I think we should be good on that side.
Okay, I should have learnt by now not to bother writing any notes down about things I want to say, because I was just about to say to you, is Jiu-Jitsu probably the number one art of the Brazilian MMA fighter? And you've probably just gone, yes. So let's crack on. Jan Błachowicz, Ronaldo Souza, main event.
Yep, this one's a big one. KrauseSouza has been a middleweight legend for a long time now. He's been through some of the most memorable wars. He's fought animals like Yoel Romero, and now he is making his debut in the light heavyweight division. He was first scheduled to have a rematch with Yoel Romero, which was highly anticipated. Yoel had to back out. It's been a considerable amount of time since that fight was scheduled now, and I think Souza is making the correct decision here in fighting at light heavyweight, because if you know much about weight classes and stuff, you'll know that Souza, on a day-to-day, he'll walk around at 216 pounds. He will train with light heavyweights, and he's even said himself he will fight at heavyweight. If he wanted to, he could fight at heavyweight and be happy doing that. I think he's going to bring his skill set to a light heavyweight division, which is, I wouldn't say less talented, but talent rich is a bit shorter than the middleweight division. The top 10's not as skilled. And when we look at these two guys, Jan and Souza, their level of competitions, even though it is different weight classes, it's two worlds apart. Souza, they are disrespecting this guy. Now, I understand that Jan introduced Luke Rockhold to the light heavyweight division earlier this year, and he knocked him out. But we're talking about a guy in Luke Rockhold who doesn't care. Luke Rockhold was actually, in my opinion, winning that fight based on points, but he didn't care in the fight. If he gave a shit at all, Luke Rockhold could have kept his chin down and avoided that and won that fight. But I think that guy's past it, so it's hard to break down Jan and compare Souza to Rockhold coming from the same divisions and give a similar prediction on that. We've got Souza now. He's an 8-time Jiu-Jitsu champion. He's a legend in the people will put him in the top 10 ever to do this, and he has fought alongside legends like Royce Gracie, Roger Gracie, and most notably, he would fight, I think it was towards the end of his jiu-jitsu career, before he started martial arts, he would take a fight short notice, and the guy was 25 pounds heavier than him. So now he's coming up into this light heavyweight division. I don't think he's going to have problems with the weight whatsoever, and we're getting him at plus 180. We're getting KrauseSouza, one of the most dangerous submission artists in the UFC, at plus 180 against a Jan Błachowicz, who, fair enough, is He's a heavy hitter. He's a good striker. He's good on the feet, but he's easy to read. He leaps in with a jab, hook, and then he'll finish his combo with a body kick, and he rinse and repeats that. And you can go through a lot of his fights, and you'll see that same combo. What else can we see from Jan? I can see him submit a couple of guys and have some control in the clinch, but that's not going to work against the Brazilian. Certainly not going to work against a jiu-jitsu champion 8 times over. The disrespect on Souza here, there's no other way to bet this. It's not part of my dogs and their odds this week, but it was part of my SBR article, First Look, which I released a couple weeks ago. If you follow that, you will know already that I'm taking Jacare plus 180, half a unit. There is a risk. There's always a risk. It's a fight game. He could get dropped. I just don't see it. He's great on the feet as well. He's knocked out some serious striking opposition in the middleweight division. And now he's at the light heavyweight division. He's got no weight cut. He doesn't have to worry about dropping 10, 20 pounds. He's also making this debut in his home country. This is laid out for Jacare, in my opinion. Jan's a great fighter. I have no disrespect towards him. But the odds, and given the circumstances, there's no other pick for me other than Jacare Souza. Plus 180. I think you get higher than that maybe at Will Hill. If you're American, Pinnacle have that at plus 180. And that's the play on the main event for me. And I do believe Jay, who's not with us right now, I think that's who he'd be siding with as well.
Okay, well, let's go on to the co-main. See if we can follow a plus 180. Mauricio Rua and Paul Craig.
Yeah, another Brazilian legend we have here, more notably than Jacare. Former champion. It's like, in my early days of watching UFC, Shogun Rua would be one of the guys who would catch my attention if I saw him on a card. Be like, oh, Rua's fighting. It's been through legendary fights. He's fought everyone, Flash. Like, legit everyone. He's fought from Forrest Griffin to Mark Coleman, Chuck Liddell, Lyoto Machida twice. Legendary battle them two had. He's fought John Jones, Dan Henderson, Alexander Gustafsson, Vince St. Preux, the list goes on. I'll be here all day. Basically, he's fought anyone and everyone in the UFC. Yes, he's lost quite a few of them, but his striking is so dangerous. And now he's pitched up against a Welsh guy who is not had this experience. I mean, the Bear Jew, Paul Craig, fair play to him. He's got himself at a high level in the UFC. Not many guys from Wales will find themselves in the UFC, but Paul Craig has, and he's had some tough battles. He's gained himself some great experience against guys like Kali Roundtree and Magomed Ankalaev, but it's another one where you're going to be facing somebody who this is what they've breathed. They've breathed this fighting in front of the hometown. I'm pretty sure Rua is, not undefeated in Brazil, but he's won a lot of his fights in Brazil, especially his recent fights. Now, although he's aging, a lot of people want to count Shogun out. The guy's aging, okay, or whatever. But the only way Paul Craig I can see winning this would be for him to lock up a submission. He has decent jiu-jitsu. Once again, he's fighting a Brazilian. Even these Brazilians that are known for their striking, they've got jiu-jitsu in their back pocket because they grew up on this. It's their martial art. So I don't see the Bear Jew tapping Mauricio. And if this one stays standing, it's two different worlds. The striking difference is ridiculous. We got the former UFC light heavyweight champion versus Paul Craig. That's what it is in this one. That's the reality of it. I didn't actually break this down too much. I didn't do any fight tape on it. I'm not betting it because I don't think a guy at the age of Rua should be coming in as such a heavy favourite. This is the fight game. I don't like the odds, but I do side with Mauricio. I can't see a way Paul can get this done unless it's just a fluke.
Dave, what price
level
is
of
he?
competition 2 worlds apart, bro. What do you say, bud?
What price is he?
Right now, he is, let me double check. He's probably gone even further down because I see people, he's 1.38.
Okay,
right
so minus
it's just not
220.
justifiable for me.
Minus 220.
Yeah, it's not something I want to pay up for. I do think he's going to win. I do think he should be the favourite. I just don't want to pay minus 220 for a 37-year-old Mauricio who, for as good as he is, he has been knocked out 5 or 6 times. He has been submitted a couple of times. So You never know. It's just not a position. It's not a strong position for me this week. I do side Rua. If you have to take a bet, maybe parlay Rua up with someone else because you're not getting much value on him here at -220. You say 1.3 on decimals. It's not a play for me. I'm not sure what Jay's done. I think his article will be released today on Odds Market, and he's broke this fight down, and he'll break it down a lot better than I have. So maybe if you want a tip for this fight, go check out oddsmarket.com/betting tips, and you'll see Jay's full breakdown of this fight there.
Okay, Dave. Well, what about Marcus Perez and Wellington Turman, sorry.
Yeah, this one, much like last week, Flash, and I will put it out there, we clean sweep the dogs last week. Yeah, much similar to last week. This is a play where I broke this fight down. I like to avoid the odds. And I'll give this bit of advice for anybody who's handicapping fights. Avoid the odds. They will sway you one way or another, or they'll put you off. So what I do, I like to break these fights down, avoid the odds, and then when I side with one fighter and I see that he's the underdog, it's the best result you can get whilst handicapping. And this is exactly what I did with this fight. This fight is split straight down the middle for me. We've got two Brazilians going against each other who are both up and coming. They're both coming in. They are doing well in their careers. And now they're fighting in their home country. And it's going to be a barn burner, in my opinion. And neither one of these guys has been finished, which is real interesting. Whereas Marcus Perez, he finishes opponents. Wellington Turman finishes opponents. And now they're facing each other. Neither has been finished. Turman, I think he went to decision in 5 of his last 7 or 8 fights. And it's a pick-em for me. When I saw the odds, I could get Wellington Turman at +110 at Will Hill. For me, that was value. And that's basically what this play is. I've analysed this fight. I've tried to break it down. And I lean Wellington based on his age. I think he's going to have a bit more spunk in his output. I feel like he'll win this fight on output and maybe the takedown game. I think he has a slight advantage in the grappling, although both of them are dangerous jiu-jitsu artists. I don't see a record of Wellington Turman's black belt. I'm pretty sure he's a black belt, but even if he isn't, it's not out there. He's not boasting about it. But these guys are dangerous. Every time somebody has gave Turman a neck, he has took it, he has squeezed it, and they can't breathe. Lights out. It's over for them. He's undefeated. Perez is undefeated in Brazil, 11-0. That's a good record. Turman has gone to decision 5 of the last 7 fights, and neither fighter has ever been finished. It's the younger fighter who's going to prevail in this one, and I think it will be a tight one. It will be a split decision, but I think I just think his takedown offense is going to win this one. So it's my dog of the week, Wellington Turman. Book that one for half a unit. You can get that at +110, although I would suggest putting that one in a bit early because I can see this ending at a pick-em. I can see that both these fighters being -110 or 1.91 by the end of the week.
Okay, and the other one we're going to go with is James Krause versus Sergio Moraes.
Yeah, I love James Krause. I think if he'd have had more activity in the UFC, James Krause could have moved himself a lot further. To say he's been around the block is an understatement. This guy's been fighting since the age of 22. He's now age 33 and he's on a 5-fight win streak. So shout out to James Krause because he is a tough SOB. Started his career at WEC. It weren't a good one. He was met with a young Donald Cerrone and a young Ricardo Lamas, who are absolute animals still in the UFC to this day. And then when he finally got to the UFC, his first fight, he came in as a last-minute replacement, never even expected to have the fight, walked out with 100K, changed his life forever. I think from that moment on, from being broke, if you come from nothing and you amount to something, you never want to go back there. And James Krause is the example of this. He, quote, he will never be broke again, and he wasn't. He opened a gym, got himself into property. In the meantime, he's been coaching and fighting. Now, he has been coaching guys. He coached someone we took on Dogs in their Odds a couple of weeks ago, Sean Woodson. He coaches him, and now a couple of weeks later, he's got his own fight. This guy does it all. He's incredible. I've watched him train his fighters in the gym. I've watched our videos on James Krause talking to his fighters in the gym. I love his spirit. I love his heart. And he's facing a guy in Sergio Moraes who who was dangerous at one point in the UFC. I think he went on a 6-fight win streak. He's a serious, I think he's a 5th Dan black belt, which is serious business. Now, James Krause is a black belt himself, but he's not a 5th Dan. So the levels are different. Now, for me, standing, James Krause is going to totally outstrike Sergio. He's got a huge chance of knocking him out. And yeah, there's no way that the judges are going to be able to swindle this one, because we do have to know it is in Brazil. When these fights go to decision, from all the countries I think of, the people that like to swindle it the most has been historically Brazil. Now, if you look at Sergio's record and you check his split decisions, guess who won them all? Sergio won them all. Of course he did, because he was fighting Americans. Okay, so that's a risk. But here, I don't see Sergio having an advantage here at all. Krause has got the black belt. No, it's not a 5th Dan black belt, but that black belt is enough for him to defend that jiu-jitsu offense. And I don't think it'll be able to get to the floor anyway. Krause started out wrestling in school. Sergio is not a good wrestler. He's a decent grappler and he's decent on the ground, but you got to get that fight to the ground first. I don't think he has a shot at getting this fight to the ground, Flash. I think this is good. There's a good chance we're going to see a knockout here. It's always a risk, you know, backing the non-Brazilian fighter, as I said. But this is one they're not going to be able to hide away from. I can't see them being able to give the split to Sergio, because he's not going to do enough for him to be able to for them to rob the victory out of James's hands. And I'm a hater of MMA math. I don't usually like, you know, stats and figures and records and stuff like that, because that don't mean shit in fighting. But I do have to say that both these guys have fought Wiley Alves over recent times. Sergio got knocked out by Alves. James knocked out Alves. So that's it for me. It was a pretty simple one. This is the Sonoja Player of the Week, one of my favourite plays. James Krause, you do have to pay up a little bit, 1.53 minus 188, but I think that price is justifiable. Given Sergio's recent bouts, it's just been a concern. He hasn't looked like the old Sergio who was energetic coming out and getting these early submission wins or even late submission wins. And I wouldn't even be surprised if James took Sergio down either, because he gasses. I feel like Sergio has maybe 2.5 minutes and that's it for him. And James is the exact opposite. He's a fighter and he will go till the last minute. Yeah, so that's it for me. That's James Krause to finish it off this week, Flash.
Okay, one word answer. Maurizio Rua and James Krause. Parlay?
Oh. Yeah, no.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, listen, mate.
Listen. I have to be transparent. That's what I do. I wouldn't take that parlay myself, because I have a weekly article, which is the Punching Parlay, and I'll be cooking up my own stuff. But I wouldn't oppose that at all, Flash. I wouldn't oppose it. The more riskier one there is going to be Hua, obviously. He's old. He's got his chin's not great, but I just don't think Paul Craig.
Well, that's it. That's why you're getting that price. You're having to pay because of the opponent. Now, and obviously he's at home, and a Welshman going into Brazil. There'll be like fireworks going off if Craig wins. So I was just looking at the minus 220, and then obviously 1.88 Krause. I just think that there's a double to be had there. If you're going to sit and watch, just parlay them together, and then you've got something running in the co-main. Dave, we'll be back next week. I'll send you 5 days' notice for the lower leagues. Last UFC. And obviously, just keep up the great work and have a great weekend, mate.
Yes, sir. We'll be on Live Line, of course, on Saturday on SBR, and we'll be breaking this entire event down live. Yeah. So you guys join us. I think it's 6 p.m. Eastern time, and you know, for the Europeans, I don't expect you guys to be hanging around at midnight till 5 a.m. But if you do, like our boy Ken Peacock, shout out Ken. He's an English lad that he sticks around all night with us till 5 a.m. So if you want to do that and do some live betting, you can join us on SBR for the Live Line show. Yeah, just give them a little mention and ask them how the Brits doing on a Monday night football. Obviously, the American football that we cover on Live Line on a Monday night. Just ask them how the Brits doing. Are you top of that leaderboard yet? Because that's what I want to see. I see Natalie's up the top. No, not yet. That's 6 plays. If it was just a Monday night, it would be over. It would be over.
But anyway, listen, roll on Saturday. Have a great time. And maybe we'll see you in the chat on Monday evening.
Yes, thank you, Flash. Have a great weekend, my friend.
Cheers, Dave. You take care. So that's the UFC 164 from Brazil, taken care of. NFL on Friday with Spreaders there, and the Sports Keg CEO with fingers crossed. And then on Saturday, it's a home game for me. Going to be videoing or filming from the apartment by the pool, the Euro 2020 qualifiers. It'll be Sunday, Monday and Tuesday's games. And then after the games on Tuesday, that's it. We'll know and we'll look forward to the draw and the groups. Until then, you take care.